What's going on, everybody? Almost Counts Collectibles here, and in today's video we're actually going to be doing a custom figure. So we are going to take this basic in-space black Legacy Ranger that I just received in the mail today. It did not come with the Zord piece, but it came with the figure. He even came with the blaster and holster, but we're not going to use that because the Silver Ranger did not have a holster or a blaster. And we are going to turn this into a Silver Zane in-space Ranger. Now, the way we're going to do that is we're not going to do any fancy painting or anything like that. We are going to take 4 basic Sharpie markers. We're going to use a black. We are going to need it to fix the visor a little bit. We are going to take a metallic silver, which will be the color of the Silver Ranger. We need a emerald metallic Sharpie marker for the actual square pieces, or more rectangle pieces, right here on the front of the chest piece. And then we are going to use a gold metallic to do all of the trim and some of the other pieces that are normally yellow that are actually more of a gold color on the actual Silver Ranger. So with these 4 basic Sharpie markers, we are going to try and turn this Ranger, this black in-space Ranger, into a silver in-space Ranger. Now, there's no particular reason why I'm choosing to use a black Ranger as the basic figure. I just so happened to pick this up for $5 on eBay, so I'm just going to use it. I don't think it's going to affect the outcome. I don't think there's any underlying reason as to why this would turn out better. If you have a blue or red, you could probably get the same end goal. Hopefully it turns out well. I have never tried this before. The reason why I'm choosing to use Sharpie markers instead of actual paint is because I don't have the best luck with actual brushed on paint. I thought about taping off the helmet and the boots and the gloves and just spray painting the entire body a silver color and then going from there. But I wanted to give something very simple to do with some basic handheld Sharpie markers, and we're going to see how it turns out. Maybe it won't turn out very well at all. I don't know. We're going to find out together, but I'm going to go ahead and start the customization, and we will see how it turns out. So hang with me for just a moment. I will be right back with the finished product. Hopefully it takes less than about an hour to do, but we're going to find out. Here we go. All right, everybody, we are back. I am finished with my custom Silver Ranger. So let's go ahead and take a look and see how it turned out. So as you can see, I think it turned out very well. It was very simple to do. It did take me probably about an hour or a little longer to fully, go over everything and make sure everything was the way I wanted it to be. I even got a little creative, and I quickly made a little super Silverizer just to stick in his hand. We'll go ahead and take a closer look at the actual figure. Now, this super Silverizer is just made out of cardboard. I literally took a USPS cardboard envelope, made a little diagram of about how big I thought it should be, cut it out, and colored it in just a tiny bit with some of those Sharpies real quick after I put it on his arm. And yeah, that took all of about 5 minutes or less to make that little custom super Silverizer. Not a very high quality weapon by any means, but I just threw it together real quick to kind of see how it would look on the actual figure. I think the figure turned out great, so I will go over real quick exactly what I did with the colors. So once again, as I already said, with the actual pieces right here on the front of the chest piece that are normally the 5 Ranger colors, I just colored them in real quick with this emerald green, and I think it turned out very well. The rest of the figure is mostly silver Sharpie marker. The black only comes into play when we actually do the helmet, because the visors on all of these figures are different. And I will show you real quick. Let me go ahead and fix him so he doesn't fall over here. His ankles are bent a little too far forward. Let me grab my other black in-space Ranger with my display over here, and we will actually take a look at the actual differences in the visor from what I started with to what I kind of had to customize. So I'm going to put them kind of side by side here without knocking them over. All right, so here at the top of the screen, you will see that on the Black Ranger, the visor actually caves outwards towards the back of the helmet and then caves back in at the bottom. Whereas with the Silver Ranger, the visor actually comes inwards and down, making like a little arrow pointing forward. So all I had to do was just keep that in mind when I was doing my actual gold trim. And there were some exposed white pieces in these corners where the existing white already was. And I just had to take the black Sharpie marker and extend out that visor up into the corners. So you just make sure you use a picture for reference. Use these vents right here on the side of the helmet for reference. And I'm going to go ahead and get a little closer just to kind of show you what I'm talking about. But on the side of both these helmets, it's kind of hard to see on black, but there's actually little vents right here on the side. It doesn't have to be perfect as long as you make sure that your arrow is right in front of that vent, and then make it, you know, a little bit wide. You don't have to get too crazy with it, but don't make a skinny little trim piece. You want to make sure that it's actually kind of thick, and it don't have to be perfect. I'm sure it will turn out great as long as you just take your time, but just use that little vent right there at the tip of my blade for your reference, and just make sure your arrow is right in front of that vent, and I'm sure it will turn out great. I will put up a picture real quick here for comparison to show my Silver Ranger versus the actual Silver Ranger. But that is all you have to pretty much do with the helmet. The rest is pretty much just coloring in. You're going over all of the white trim and making it a gold color. And then you just have to kind of customize the sides of that visor to make it actually look right. All of the In-Space Rangers visors are different. A lot of people don't realize that until you actually look at them, but they all do have an actual different scheme to them on the way that the visor is actually trimmed out. So let's go ahead back to the Silver Ranger here. This is what we started with, of course. Everything else was pretty simple. The helmet's going to take the longest just because you have to fix the trim. The rest of it's pretty much just coloring in. The Silver Ranger actually does have some gold-like bordering around the tops of the boots. And then he has it around the tops of the actual gauntlets. So just make sure that you give them a little trim. Now, technically, should the trim, for example, here we're looking at my gauntlet, it should be a little bit thicker, so it should come down just a little bit further, but I don't really care. I mean, there's already a raised up portion on the actual, you know, glove itself, so just kind of color in that a gold color, and you should be good to go. But there is the Custom Legacy Silver Ranger. Once again, I'm really happy with the way that the visor and everything turned out. But that is our end product with just using Sharpie markers. Now, as far as the durability goes, the silver parts, if you let them dry a little bit, probably overnight would be best. You can touch them. And for the most part, I mean, it's good. They're not going to come off on your finger or anything like that. The only thing I've noticed is, and I really probably haven't given it enough time to dry, but the trim on the actual gloves, gauntlets, whatever you want to call them, and the actual boots themselves, if you touch those right away, the gold will actually come off on your finger a little bit, and you might have to go over it and touch it up. But for a very quick customization job, and the good thing about Sharpie marker customizations is you can always go back and touch it up as long as you have your Sharpie marker if anything happens to it. And this is mainly for display. This isn't going to be used for any kind of moderate to heavy play at all. The only thing I'm going to do with this is put it in some poses and stick it on display. So this is plenty good enough for what I needed. And now I actually have a Silver Ranger to round out my In-Space Legacy collection. So if you guys were interested in a Silver Ranger at all, this is a very quick way to get your hands on one. Just buy a basic male figure. Once again, does not have to be a Black Ranger. That's just what I happen to get my hands on for very cheap. So I customized a Black Ranger. And just grab those Sharpies, those 4 basic Sharpies, and that's all you should need to do this whole customization. Now with the actual Super Silverizer here. If you're interested at all on how I did that, I'm going to go ahead and grab the materials that I used, and I will show you real quick. All right, we're back. So to make your Super Silverizer, if you just want to make a quick one kind of like I have, all I used was a basic USPS mailing envelope, one of these little cardboard ones. And I started drawing a few different little diagrams. I held his hand up to the paper to see, you know, kind of where I needed to cut to fit it in there. I drew a basic outline of a Super Silverizer. I cut it out with an X-Acto knife, being very careful, of course. And once I had cut that out with a basic X-Acto knife, I held it up to his hand. I made sure the fingers were in the right spot to actually cut out the little portion where his fingers go to make sure it would line up. So I cut those out, I fit it into his hand, and then for the actual strap on the back, all I did was cut out a little straight piece of cardboard up here in the corner. I wrapped it around. I put a small touch of super glue on the end of it so I could actually fasten it over top of the top and bottom bars on the Silverizer, and I colored it in real quick with a black Sharpie marker. And that is how I ended up with my little custom cardboard Super Silverizer, just for display purposes, of course. I colored it in a tiny bit with my Sharpie markers so that it is somewhat a replica of kind of what it looks like. But for a quick little 5-minute cardboard weapon that scales pretty good and actually looks pretty decent, I thought it would turn out quite well. But that is our Silver in Space Zane Ranger. If you were interested in the whole team, I'll go ahead and throw the whole team up here so we can see them together and see what they look like. And here we go. We have the whole team together now. We have the complete In-Space Ranger squad. And I think overall it looks great for a quick Sharpie marker modification. And that helmet really turned out well. I mean, as long as you take your time and just kind of shape it a little bit, it's going to look great. And that is our custom Zane Silver in Space Sharpie marker modification. Just take a basic male figure, grab your Sharpies, and this is what you could end up with. So I'm sure I'm not the first person to do a Silver in Space custom figure, but for something that's very simple to do and very cheap to do by just buying 4 basic Sharpie markers, this is what you could end up with. So until next time, everybody, I will see you next video.